In the book, there's a fair amount of I think what I would call trash talk, and I'm sure you'd agree, related to Ken Shamrock. And just a few of the things you've said about him are that his physique was chemically induced. If he was truly an experienced fighter, he would not have lost to Hoist. He wouldn't have
Yeah,
lost to
let me stop you right there. I just one I said you might call it trash talk, some of this, but no, I look at it like I'm rubbing people's faces in the truth and in knowledge. The man has tested positive on a couple occasions now for steroids, and in the most recent situation, even tested positive for opiates on top of that. So again, it's not that I'm trash talking. You know, out of the first three people ever inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, only one of us has never tested positive. Would you like to go on a limb on that and guess who that might be?
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I'm gonna say that's you.
Bingo. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So, you know, I take pride in myself, the fact that I am like chemical free. I do speak with young athletes, with juvenile centers, you name it. I go on and I talk about different things, anything from anti-bullying to the importance of education and you know, how to motivate athletes. You know, there's a number of things I do, and I always despise that hypocritical athlete that's walking in there like going, yo, 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 don't do drugs, stay in school, and a week later they're busted with this or that. I would have a lot more respect for that athlete if they was just go in there and start off, do as I say and not as I did. Because I did it, these were the repercussions of my action. But just to deny and deny, you make yourself look the fool.
The last time I had spoken with Ken, which was a few years ago, and we actually talked about UFC 9 and the fight you had with him. And I think for his point of view, he was pretty much over the feud. But I always wanted to ask you, like, what would it take to finally end this feud between you and Ken? Would another fight settle differences? Would you have any respect for him after that?
No. I mean, I'd say I've never had this much conversation with Ken Shamrock as I've had with you alone. So to me, it's like, you know, who is Ken Shamrock and what? It's just, you know, he is an embellishment of nothing. And you read that the book. I point out the fact of where his credentials lie, and really what are they of substance of? If they're not, they're non-substance. He well, the only reason I thought that even bring him up at this point in time was he was supposed to have done a third match with me just this past March.
And then he pulled out because of a random injury that we don't quite know what it was.
Okay, Max, you only see one aspect of it. You and a lot of others, okay, but if you actually knew more of the information, he had already signed a letter of intent with me, with this company that you are now. He had already received a certain percentage of his guaranteed purse for them. Way before there was ever an announcement in Bellator. So, and the shit that when he's putting on his Twitter or stuff like this, so, you know, that he's got a major announcement coming up, I assume he's going to be making an announcement about his and my match. And also he announces his Bellator match with Royce Gracie. And I call the company up. I go, you got Ken Shamrock who just makes this announcement that he's going to be taking on Royce Gracie. And he's taking on Royce Gracie on Friday, I think it was February 19th. I don't know if you realize this or not, man, but our first original date for the UR Network was Sunday, February 21st.
Yeah,
How was he going to fight? Yeah, how was he going to fight in Bellator on a Friday night, and then in the UR Network on a Sunday? Same way weekend. The original date of your network was on that Sunday, whatever I think the date was, February 21st, and then he announces new fight date with Bellator to fight against Royce Gracie. So to me, that was wrong for him to even try to do something. He should have just scheduled Royce the next Bellator for a later event, and just should have proceeded forward with his first commitment.
So, Mr. Severn, last question for you. Do you have any thoughts on a fighters' union? Is it something that's needed? Can it work? And what should be done to protect these younger athletes who might not be thinking too far ahead in the future?
I think something like that should be in place. Yeah, there should be something in place. There's something that could have been easily put in place with the current ownership with Ultimate Fighting Championship. You've got the Zuffa. I think that when they were finally on the positive side of generating cash flow and starting to build income off of it, if they would have took a certain amount of money on an annual basis, and would just keep dropping into some type of a medical trust fund, knowing that they'll never actually touch the principal, but just to work off of the interest that it generated. Maybe only use up to about 75-80% of the interest, because the reality is, as the sport is going, as more people come under contact, more and more money is being needed to take care of athletes. So that over the course of, to give you a quick example, had the company just simply put in $1 billion a year into a medical slush fund, and they're only using up 75-80% of that each year, it builds more and more. So just in the quick hypothetical, I know that Zuffa did not own it for the full 20 years, but you just look at the simple math of it. Sports been off for 20 years. There would have been a base of $20 million plus, an additional 50% growing on an annual basis, to where that would be a very healthy chunk of change in there to actually help a lot of these athletes as they have medical problems later in life. The sport is still relatively new. Maybe there's something that will happen in the future, and maybe it's something that he even talked about, but it's something that is needed, because these athletes do risk life and limb, whether it be right then and there on the spot or the repercussions later down the road.
All right, well, I could not agree more with you, Mr. Severn. And just one last time, obviously we could chat all day about MMA stuff and pro wrestling stuff, because you know so much. You've been around for such a long time doing this. But I think the listeners right now should go out and buy the book. So how can they get a copy of The Realest Guy in the Room?
Well, I tell you what, right now, it's just to go to my website, dansevern.com, and it has all my social media there, and that's where all that the advertisement is for the book. It has only been out in the first place. It was only out on an electronics book for about the first, I think 5 days ago or something like that is when it was first was put out on ebook. And I think in those first few days, it is already the #1 bestseller on Amazon.com. And I think the hardbound comes out sometime next week. And so, and that's with very little promotion right now. So you're really part of some of the very first interviews that have been taking place about letting people know that there actually is finally a book out there. I've been talking about it for several years now, and I sure think that I do have the first installment, but because so much content, there's a lot of pictures in this one, but there's also 300 pages of content on top of that. So I think that people should be entertained and impressed about one individual's journey over 40 some odd years of competition. I am walking history, and I'm still not done.